Are you running your business, or is your business running you? If you are struggling with overwhelm and burnout, chances are your business boundaries need some attention. But wait, what are business boundaries? Are they different from regular life boundaries? Do you even have regular life boundaries? Believe it or not, most business owners are really bad at enforcing boundaries in their business. This has been an ongoing learning curve for me since I started my own business in 2014. Today's guest is a self-proclaimed boundary enthusiast. Jelisha Gatling is a licensed therapist and private practice strategist. In short, she's the perfect person to deliver this masterclass on the boundaries you need to dial in your business, improve your relationship with clients, and finally start living a life full of rest and joy. In this conversation, Jelisha shares 5 specific business boundaries you can implement right away to help recover from burnout and finally become deeply rested. This conversation was originally recorded for my fundraising event, the Rest and Success Code, and I am really excited to be sharing it with you again today. And hey, if you enjoy this conversation, I would be so grateful if you'd share it with 2 colleagues who also need some boundary coaching in their business. You sharing this podcast with your friends will help us tremendously in sharing the deeply rested message with more business owners. Okay, sit back, relax, and enjoy this deeply rested conversation with the fierce, funny, and incredibly wise Jelisha Gatling. Welcome to Deeply Rested, the podcast that helps people doing good work in the world take incredibly good care of themselves. I'm your host, retired therapist and disillusioned business coach, Megan Meganson. I'm on a mission to help people like you unlearn the rules that keep you trapped in self-doubt so that you can recover from burnout and finally become deeply rested. If you enjoyed today's show, be sure to subscribe to this podcast and join our weekly newsletter at deeplyrested.com/newsletter. Now, it's time for the show. Hi, Jelisha. Welcome.
Hello, Megan. Thank you for having me.
Ooh, I am really happy to have you here. And I have to say, a lot of folks who join me on the show, I've met before. I have a relationship with them. And you and I are just meeting today for the first time. And it's so exciting. So I just want to share for context that I originally learned about you when a mutual colleague of ours, Lindsay Bonham, sent me a blog post that you had written about firing your accountant. And besides it being just a really good story, it was so clear to me when I read your article that you are a therapist who really understands boundaries.
Yeah. I was noodling on writing about that experience for a while, and it definitely had me walk the walk, like of what I help so many therapists with, and it just surprised me how difficult it was, even now after having done so much of work around boundaries, and knowing that it wasn't working out for me anymore.
Yeah, it's a really good article. And I think that most therapists that I work with as a business coach are really terrible at setting boundaries and like a pot calling the kettle black here. Like I've been working on boundaries with my own therapist for a very long time. So I understand the struggle. And I know, Jelisha, that you are going to share with us today 5 really helpful boundary suggestions for therapists. And I know that we're very much aligned in our belief that being able to assert boundaries is a crucial step for any business owner who wants to protect themselves from burnout. So I'm going to put a pin in that. We're going to turn back to that in a couple of minutes. But first, I want to get to know you and I want our audience to get to know you. So can you just share with us more about who you are and what your professional journey has been as a therapist business owner?
Yeah. I went back to school a bit later, like around 30 or so, for therapy. So I don't know, I call myself somewhat of a later career changer person. And I opened my practice at the end of 2017, pretty much immediately after getting licensed. Like I really had to work through some of the stories that I'd been told as far as you got to sow your, you've got to, what is it? Pay your dues.
Oh, yeah.
You've got to, and I saw so many stories of people who didn't start their practice until 10 years later or what have you. And I just was like, I can't wait. Like, I got to do this now. And so I opened up my practice. I was bartending on the side for quite some time while doing that and slowly building up my practice. And things really exploded like the next year, like mid 2018, in a way that I could not have predicted. Working with another person who's on your speaker lineup, Tiffany McLean.
Oh, yes.
Which was just super helpful in unlocking so many money blocks that I didn't even know I had that were showing up in the business. And so that work was incredibly helpful to me in setting boundaries and resetting them and like actually putting them in play. And I can see how it completely correlates with your income and just with your whole peace of mind and just mental energy. Boundaries, yeah, it's everything. So I have a lot of that to thank from Tiffany. And I ventured into doing some coaching in 2020 with other therapists, and I'm now doing one-to-one work with therapists on their private practice and building that up. And a lot of that is around boundary setting.
Yeah. Amazing. So at this point, you really are running two businesses. You have your private practice where you see clients, and then your coaching practice where you work one-on-one with therapists around business building.
Correct. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And how is that feeling for you? I mean, this is something so many therapists are curious about, right? Building a business beyond one-on-one therapy. Yeah. How's it going?
I mean, it's actually going really well because I've been really good and diligent about being realistic with myself about my capacity. And so I have a very small caseload. I think I have 7 people right now.
Therapy or coaching?
Therapy.
Clients.
And I don't see more than 2 therapists at a time. So that's like my cutoff with that. So that's kind of like my full whatever, but it feels really, really good and easy. Like I have a lot of space. And so I'm just really, I want to keep that in check as far as getting away from that more, getting away from that story of you got to have more clients and work yourself into the ground and, all the things that contribute to burnout. Like I'm really trying to live like an anti-hustle life.
Oh, I hear you. And I freaking love it. I think that the more, I call that with my coaching clients, it's the arbitrary more, right? When we're just trapped in this system where we're always striving for more, but why? It's our goals are arbitrary and we're just hustling and grinding to what end? It's so refreshing and clarifying to hear you saying, what your boundaries are. You have the bandwidth for 7 therapy clients a week and 2 coaching clients at a time. And that's it. The simplicity of that, the structure of that gives you lots of space in your schedule. And it also sounds like it keeps the creative gears spinning for you because you're getting to do your work in the world in 2 very different ways.
Yes, absolutely.
We could stop the episode right here. I think
know.
That's such a powerful model, Jelisha, of like, look, you can do more with your business, you can do more with your career, but that doesn't mean that you have to be overscheduled. It doesn't mean that you have to be stretched super thin. More might look like adding another branch to your business, but just two clients. It doesn't have to be super time intensive. Wow. I think that is a really empowering example for all of our listeners. Yeah. And I'm just happy for you too. It sounds really fun.
Thank you. It is. It really, really is. And I think it speaks to the importance of getting away from the shoulds, because that's something I talk about a lot. Releasing the shoulds of what is a full caseload. Like I've had to do work around being okay with having 5, 6 clients and like I'm doing well, but it's like there's a voice kind of that's always coming in, sort of challenging, am I doing enough? Or I've had certain therapists even kind of gasp when I talk to them about like, I'm off on Wednesdays. Like I don't have any clients on. Like, how does that work? And so like really not getting caught up in that and making your own rules. That's the point of this. Like we are in business. We can make our own schedule. We set the rules. And so, what a full caseload is for me may not be for you, may not be for someone else.
Yeah.
No
That's
judgment.
so true. Exactly. Right. You start and run your own business for yourself. I think we all need to get more comfortable owning that. Our businesses my business is for me. It's not actually for my clients. My clients get to benefit from my business, but it is for me. And if it's not working for me, then what's the point? And you are just really embodying that. What works for you is this small caseload, 1 and 2 one-on-one coaching clients, and showing up and being so unapologetic about that it's quite powerful.
Thank you. Yeah.
The other thing I hear you saying that I think is important is 1, that you understand your finances, and 2, that you know how to set boundaries. So the financial piece, it's like, how much money you need to live your best life. You set your fees accordingly. And then that's it. It's like you said, I'm feeling spacious, I'm doing well. And then you can set the boundaries to back up that lifestyle that you want to live. When you can do both of those pieces, when you know your numbers and you can set boundaries, you're kind of like limitless, really, and what kind of life you can create for yourself.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Well, you are incredible. I think this is such a beautiful story. I hope people listening are just soaking this up. I hear so often from coaching clients that they think they see the 2 ends of the spectrum. Like this end over here is I'm a therapist in private practice and I just can't do anything else. So my business stays small. I stay kind of small and that's it for my career. And the other end of the spectrum is I have a huge business. I'm running a massive group practice or a massive online business and I have thousands of students and they don't see what it could look like, something in between those 2 options. And I think that's the picture that you're painting for us today is something in between could be as simple as saying, I have 7 therapy clients and 2 coaching clients, and that's the container. And I'm really happy here. So if you're listening to this conversation and you want something more, but you don't want something huge, Jelisha is your new inspiration.
Yes. You said that so perfectly. Love that. Yeah.
It's amazing. Okay. Well, so happy to know all of this about you. It really is an inspiring story. And I am so ready to dive in to your 5 boundary tips for therapist business owners. Are you ready to do this?
I think so. Yeah, let's dive in.
Okay. I love boundaries. I love talking about boundaries. So I'm getting very excited. And I'm so curious to hear more about boundary tip number 1, which you call beyond talking the talk. Jelisha, what does that mean and how do I do it?
Essentially, it's walking the walk. I don't know if any therapist listening can resonate with this, but I know at the beginning of my practice with policies, with boundaries of cancellation policies, attendance, time, not going over, all those kind of things. I had everything written down. And because of that, I was like, I have boundaries, but I wasn't actually enacting those consistently. And it was confusing for clients and it was stressful for me. And so I simply say walking the walk, like essentially is kind of the tip here, which is important because you have to first understand that boundaries, when we're talking about policies, charging for late cancellations, that it's not punishing your client. And that was like a whole reframe that I had to work through. And I think that's what keeps people from doing it.
Definitely.
And it's such a game changer with your money when you are being really consistent and clear about charging for no shows, no cancellations, because a lot of people tend to think, well, I have to have more clients. That's the problem. I need to more. And I'm like, actually, no. The first thing that I do when I'm working with my coaching clients is I'm looking for their money leaks. And we're not even talking about how many clients you want, how many you need, but how are you closing off money in your business on the day to day? And that comes from going over session. That comes from saying that you were saying, okay, I don't work on Saturdays, but you know what? I'll do it this one time. They really need it. And you may think, Jelisha, how is that impacting my money? It's confusing your clients when you say you don't do something or you do it and you do the opposite. But also it's just, it creates an anxiety because you have yourself with all these different options that aren't actually what you want. And that's going to create resentment. And that is going to bleed into your money flow. Like, I really think a lot of it is just so energetic. And so I feel like with this tip, I really also want to highlight that there are signs that it may be time for you to, or that there's a boundary that you need to firm up or reset. And some of those signs might be if you find yourself saying, oh, I'll do it next time. I used to say that all the time with the cancellation, like, I'll do it next time. I'm not going to charge them this time, but if they do it again, I'll do it. Or if you find yourself feeling a little bit of anxiety or exhaustion on a specific day or a specific time of day. I just had to do this a couple months ago where I'm like, no more evening clients because I'm feeling like I'm brain dead. Even though I don't have that many clients, I don't know, something's shifting in my body where I'm just not there. And so like listening to that, and I realized, oh my gosh, Tuesday nights, I am done. So I need to shift my schedule. So like kind of listening to these reoccurring, I'm going to do better. And like, look at the boundary that is not being set or is not being enforced.
This is great. I'm just sitting here thinking about talking the talk versus walking the walk, right? And talking the talk is the equivalent of putting it in your informed consent or your financial policy. Okay, great. Exactly. You're talking the talk. Like, you did put it in a document. You had a conversation with the client about what the expectation is during session number 1. But walking the walk is, are you actually going to honor and uphold that beautiful informed consent document that you wrote and reviewed with your client in session number 1? And if you're not, you are doing a disservice to yourself, but also to your client, because you're creating really fuzzy boundaries in the relationship that lead to confusion for the client, probably some frustration for the client eventually. But you, as a business owner, you, in my opinion, are the most important person in this relationship. You're going to get really resentful and exhausted. So that's, if I'm hearing you correctly, the first part of what it means to go beyond talking the talk. And the second piece that you're weaving in here is this little disclaimer that says, hey, keep checking in with yourself, because you might get to the point where what you wrote in that informed consent is no longer working for you. And if that's the case, just make a change. But when you make a change, you need to talk the talk and walk the walk. So you probably need to write it down for your client, put it in your policies, communicate the change to your client, and then you have to actually enforce the new change. So I love the example of eliminating evening sessions. If you say you're going to eliminate evening sessions and then you communicate that to your clients, 2 weeks later, you can't be like, okay, well, I'll see you one more time at 6 p.m. because I know you haven't had a chance to change your schedule yet. No, you have to draw the line in the sand and then hold it, protect it with your life. Am I getting this right?
Totally, completely. Okay. Yes. So that's a great recapturing of everything I wanted to highlight. And also just to that last piece, when you're talking about letting your clients know about the change, I think a lot of times we've been getting that feeling. I've been getting that feeling for a while. On Tuesday nights, I was like, I'm exhausted. This is too much. And it took me a few months to actually communicate that. And so like, you could give your clients 2 months notice, or, it doesn't have to be like next week, but like just being really open about that. And also if you're changing a previous, let's say that you have a 24-hour cancellation policy, but you haven't been upholding it. You've been letting people slide. Like, I own that. I've actually had conversations with clients where I've said, hey, I know I've been going over on session, or I know that I haven't been charging for cancellations, and that's on me. But moving forward, this is happening. So I like acknowledge that I haven't been upholding that. Right. And like, I just think that relieves a lot. So you're not just like hoping they don't say anything. It just creates a lot of frustration and anxiety that's not
I'm just
necessary.
remembering this time last year. I remember this. My therapist said in our first session in January at the top of the session, "Hey, Megan, I want to let you know." My therapist, by the way, who in the years I've been working with her is like chronically 5 minutes late to every session. I've just embraced it. But she says to me in January of last year, "Hey, Megan, I want to let you know that 2021, I am setting out to start my sessions on time and to end at the 50-minute mark. I know that I have not been great about that. It's a challenge that I have, but I'm really going to work hard at that. And I'm wondering if you can like be on my team in this goal. Can we do this together?" And I loved it as the client. I felt like she really stepped up and acknowledged what the boundary had been, what the kind of the lived boundary had been. And then she let me be part of the relationship by sharing, like, this is what I'm going to try to do differently. Yeah. Okay, great. So boundary tip number 1, talk the talk, walk the walk, change things if you need to change things, but always go back to explicit communication with the other person in the relationship. Which, by the way, if we just put on our therapist hats for a minute, isn't this the exact same advice we would give to any client in any relationship they were telling us about in the therapy room? Okay, just wanted to name that. All right, talk the talk, walk the walk. Let's move on to boundary tip number 2, which you say is protecting your work time and your off time. Tell me more.
Yeah. I mean, it's important. We have so much work that we do outside of client-facing work, right? And I think a lot of times those are the hours that we tend to protect, like really protect. No one's getting in on that or nothing else is coming in that space, but we're not protecting all of the other time, whether it be with notes, scheduling, planning, delegating tasks, maybe to a VA if you have a VA, following up on things, thinking time. I just realized that thinking the last year, I need thinking time. I have thinking time on Wednesday, like just to think. And so you can put these blocks, and it's kind of similar to the talking the talk. You can put these blocks in your calendar, right? But are you actually protecting it? Because I find that a lot of people, if someone says, "Hey, can we meet at XYZ time?" If it's not a client-facing hour or it's free time, they look at that as available time. And I'm like, your free time is not your availability. You don't want to operate from that angle.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah, I often think about it. You have to name what are all of the different hats you wear as a business owner. You know, client time, client delivery is one hat, but then you also are the CEO of your business. You might be the bookkeeper of your business. You might be the receptionist for your business. Like there are many hats that you wear. And I agree, like you have to put time for each hat that you wear in your schedule. And you have to train yourself to not treat those blocks of times as negotiable or flexible. And why do you think, Jelisha, that's so hard for therapists to do? Why do you think we're so quick to just give it all away?
I mean, well, I think if you're a therapist, or you have a helper type of soul, like you want to help people. So that's a space that you just naturally probably pull from and lean into, but it can cross a line, which can inch us into burnout, right? But I also just think, I mean, society is like the productivity, just fearing saying no to people, feeling like, no, my time actually, I can give this time away even, there's like guilt around saying yes to something for a lot of people, I find, because they are free or they're off or they don't have something like a meeting to show up for. And so beyond just putting this in your calendar, what I really want people to get from this tip is what do you need to do to protect your time? And so there's all these different things coming in from a text message, a phone, a notification. Like how can you set parameters to really optimize protecting that time? So yeah, I mean, so that could look like, okay, I talked about this on so many different like podcasts and things. Take the Gmail app off your phone. It changed my life. You know, like make it so that make it easy for you to align with what you set out to do. I have all these text chats on silent, just like all the time now, because you get distracted by the ding and the ding. And so I don't hear noises anymore. My phone is always on silent. Everything is silent. And so I go to my text with intention. And it's
Mhm.
gotten to a point where I'm like, I'm not missing anything. Nothing is falling apart. And like learning that it's okay for you to step away and not check your email for 3 hours.
Mhm.
So like things like that. What do you need to take off of your phone? What do you need to delete? And also like having kind of no work zones, especially with us working from home now.
Mhm.
Like laptops not allowed in my bedroom. Nope.
Mhm.
Nope. It doesn't go in there. Like it's a no. I'm not having it in the bed. If I need to get up early and I'm like, I'm going to do yoga because I'm so bad, and I will talk myself out of it because I'm not a morning person.
Mhm.
I will have my phone alarm. I will put my phone in the kitchen before I go to bed. So I have
Smart.
to get up.
Yeah.
So like trick yourself. Like I have all these tricks that I use to protect my time and help me stay accountable with what I've set out to do. And a lot of times we're just being interrupted. So I'm like, what interruptions can you cut off rather than saying, I'm going to try not to check my phone. I'm going to try not to look at my Gmail at the dinner table. Take it off your phone. Leave the phone in another room. So like setting alarms, airplane mode, all those things like can have been really, really helpful to me.
Yeah, I agree. I'm constantly experimenting with device boundaries and technology boundaries. And the more we can enforce rules around minimizing distractions, I think the easier that it becomes to honor these obligations that we make to ourselves. And I would say the other piece of the equation that is really important to me is being in the practice of saying no.
Yes.
Of saying no sometimes to things that we really want to say no to, but struggle because we're people pleasers. But even more challenging than that is saying no to the things that actually sound really great.
Yeah.
And so someone invites you out for coffee and you like this person and you would love to connect with them, but the only time they're available is during your admin time. The answer is no. Unfortunately, our schedules don't match up this week. And that's, for me in practice, what it looks like to honor the time that I need to work on my business instead of just working in my business via client delivery. And the reality is it sucks and it does hurt and it is sad. And you do have to grieve loss of opportunity sometimes when you say no. Just like we have to grieve the loss of whatever it might mean for our lives when we're not as available via social media or email. So there is a trade-off to all of these decisions that we make, but I love that you're bringing it back to protect the boundaries that you set in your schedule. If you schedule time to exercise, if you schedule time to do your finances, if you schedule time to write your notes, to see clients, to go on vacation, great, but that's just step one. Step two is that you actually enforce them and protect them. And it's a lot easier said than done. So I think this was a really, really good reminder. Let's move on to boundary number 3. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Very excited about this one because it's very hard. Boundary tip number 3, being assertive and direct, but also kind.
Yes. So this is mostly, I feel like, applicable when it comes to email exchanges, clients reaching out maybe about needing to reschedule or cancel, or even if you have a consultation, being really assertive with what are the next steps after that. And it being super clear. And one of the ways that I enact this assertiveness when I'm communicating with people to schedule things, I try to mitigate as much back and forth as possible. With every email that I get, I want to mitigate. This might sound bad. You following up with another question. And I say that to say, because back in the day,
right.
Megan, I used to, if a client needed to cancel and it was less than my cancellation policy hours, I would basically I would hope that they. Well, that's a bad example. I have sent emails where I hope that they don't follow up and ask, well, will I be charged? Instead of just assertively saying it. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So,
I think I'm reminded of a strategy I read in the book, Deep Work. And he was talking about email communication. And one of his strategies in the book, I'm going to totally butcher the way that he talks about it, but the idea was spend more time responding to emails so that you spend less time caught in an email back and forth exchange, because it's the slow bleed of time lost over a long stretch of time that really, really gets to us. So over time, if you would, that same exchange over the course of a week might take you 45 minutes of your time doing this back and forth. But if you just take 10 minutes to start, to spell out very explicitly, this is what's going to happen next. This is when I'll see you next. If you do need to follow up with me, answer these questions or let me know that this is what you need from me in return. I mean, really think about what is the complete container for this interaction and this need, and how can I get all of that out in one email to minimize the back and forth. So that's like one strategy for being direct. Another strategy is probably just, again, ending the conversation.
Ending the conversation. And just being super crystal clear, because we can be walking around with different expectations. I could say, hey, Megan, let's meet up and have a coffee chat next week. Let me know when you're free.
Mm-hmm.
That leaves so much room for back and forth. Well, when are you free? Blah, blah. I instead now would say, hey, Megan, I'd love to catch up with you. These are the times that I'm available in the next week. Please let me know by this date.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I always give a deadline.
Yeah.
If a client says, hey, I'm not sure if I'm going to make it to our schedule, to our meeting today, I say, let me know by noon. If I don't hear from you by noon, I will assume that we are meeting. Like, I let people know, and I put it's on them. I don't need to follow up again. I'm like done with chasing. So this really, like, it mitigates all of that, where I might have a certain time frame that I expect a response and someone else thinks it's not as urgent. I say up front what my expectations are and what's going to happen if you respond or don't respond by that time.
Yeah. And don't you think that the bigger challenge here for caregivers, people pleasers, people who are really conditioned by, the patriarchal society in which we live, we believe we have to lead with being nice. And we have to lead with being, smiley face, exclamation point, lots of question marks. And it puts the burden on us to do extra emotional labor to make sure that, like, everybody's okay all the time. And we've really collectively, we have to swap that, right? We have to be assertive first and kind second, instead of kind first and then maybe a little bit assertive afterwards, because it takes too much time. I don't have the time to be in like a super squishy, friendly, emoji heavy conversation with you. Like, I'm running a business here. I have a life that I'm trying to live. Permission granted to lead with assertiveness and to do it. I like to think of it as compassionate assertiveness, right? I'm always going to lead with compassion. And I also believe that it is extremely compassionate to be assertive, because when you are assertive, you are giving people, there's no room for them to assume or wonder or be unclear about what you need or what you're asking from them. So I feel like this advice, Jelisha, be assertive and be direct, applies to every area of our life and business. Be assertive and direct with your clients, with your contractors, with the people that you pay for support, with the people in your personal life. If you can apply assertive and direct boundaries with all people in your ecosystem, your whole life is going to be so much more manageable.
Yeah, it is. It's clear. Clear is kind. I feel like that is kind.
Yes.
But also, like, I love it. I would love it if someone sends me an email and says, this is when I'm available specifically, rather than let's get together soon or let me know your schedule. Right. Like, it's for them too.
This is what I need from you, or this is what I would like from you. I mean, how many emails do I get? Oh, several a day, where people are asking a question, but it's not really clear what they want from me. And it's not clear, like, when the exchange will be complete.
Yeah.
And I think I would feel, as someone who gets a lot of requests, I would feel so much relief if someone would reach out to me and say, like, hey, here's my question. Here's the way in which you can provide support. And just the clearer you make it, the more grateful I'm going to be to you.
Yes.
And we have to do that, like, lead by example in your own life. Okay. All right. So let's sum up where we are so far. First of all, talk the talk, but more importantly, walk the walk. Second, protect your work time and your off time by setting really clear boundaries. Third, be assertive and direct and kind in all of your communication with all people across the board. Boundary number 4, I'm really excited. This is the one I've been most curious about. Boundary number 4, you just say silent boundaries. What are some good boundaries? I feel like I have to whisper.
This is this is like my own coined term. So this isn't like a real concept. If anybody is like, I've never heard of this.
Hey, don't discount yourself. Silent boundaries. TM. Your business name. I love it.
I call silent boundaries because I think when we think about boundaries, we think, okay, I'm setting a policy in place. It's written. I'm communicating something. I'm firming up a line. But there are so many boundaries that you can enact and that people will understand without you saying a word. And so that could look like it's a lot of inaction, like just not responding on weekends. If you say you don't work weekends, why are you stressing out about replying to this person on Saturday? Why are you even looking at your email, first of all?
Great question. I'm starting to sweat a little bit over here. I'm like, oh my God, she sees me. Okay, keep going.
Not responding on weekends. Another thing, when you are responding to people, not apologize. I stopped apologizing.
Yes.
Like justifying, over-explaining. No, I'm not available. It's a complete sentence.
Yeah. No is a complete sentence. I love that quote.
Yes. Yeah, it is. And so I feel like that's a boundary in itself. When I say I respond to an inquiry, let's say they send it to me Friday night and I get back to them Monday. I used to say, I'm so sorry for the delay. I apologize. No. Hi, thanks for reaching out. Da, 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 da. And I think also it's kind of like with this whole anti-hustle aura that I'm trying to maintain, I am aligning with that by not responding, by not even looking on the weekends and not freaking out about it. But you don't need to explain why you can't do something or, well, I'm sorry I have to charge you, but you did, you last minute. Why am I? No.
I'm speechless. I mean, it's so powerful, and it feels like a direct challenge to capitalism too, right? If we look like, let's point the finger where let's point the blame where it really belongs, right? That this capitalistic system has really conditioned us to believe it's our duty to be constantly available.
Yeah.
And to be extremely responsive, which has led to all of us having really shitty boundaries.
Yeah.
And what you were saying, I feel like, is something I'm personally working on in my own life, which is to challenge that, to challenge my own deeply conditioned belief that being responsive is like the gold standard, and instead setting boundaries. And I think the one thing I want to add into this is, for me, and I don't know, I might change my mind about this in a couple of years, but right now I feel like the way that I want to counteract that in my own life is by being really clear with people about when they can expect responses from me, right? I will set, I'm thinking about my email account for my therapy practice. I have it. I use something called Boomerang, which for anyone listening, if you don't know Boomerang, game changer. It's a Gmail extension. You can pause your inbox. You can schedule things to come back to you. It's amazing. So I have my email permanently paused with an autoresponder that just says hi, I'm not constantly available to answer emails at this account. I will respond to you on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays around 12 o'clock.
Love it.
And then that's it. And that's when I'm going to respond. So I'm wondering, how do you feel about this idea that we can just not be available? And if that's the case, we have to walk the walk and not be available during those times. How do you feel about the idea that we could also be explicit with the people in our ecosystem about when we are and aren't available?
Totally. Yeah. No, I love that. And I think it goes in line with just setting really clear expectations so there isn't any guessing. And really setting a cadence to what people can expect with you. And you can do that without explicitly saying when they can expect to hear from you. If someone hears back from me 2 days later, the first time they interact with me, they're gonna come to kind of expect that and not expect me to respond right away. If I respond within 20 minutes, they're gonna expect that.
Yeah.
Moving forward. So people will get in line without you necessarily having to have that. I think it's great, but yeah.
It can go both ways. Yeah. And I think I want to name and own that my desire to do that is how I am managing my own anxiety about it, about not being responsive, right? And my own fears that pop up about what will people say about me or my business if it takes 3 days to get back to them? But you're so right. I mean, if you feel good about just, if you can constantly and consistently show up with the same boundary, you will. This is something that my therapist has said to me for years. Like, you have to train people how to treat you. And like, you have to train the people in your life what to expect when they're in relationship with you. And these silent boundaries, wow, what a great term to just put in the back of your mind. Just be silent. There is so much is communicated through not responding or waiting 72 hours or like whatever your own benchmark is going to be. Yeah, Jelisha, that feels really resonant for me.
Good.
Anything else you want to say about those silent boundaries?
No, I think we kind of, we
Should we just be silent for a moment and like let that be the answer?
Yeah, let people marinate on it.
I'm definitely going to marinate on the silent boundaries piece. I will say, I just have to say this because it's one of my biggest pet peeves. One of my biggest pet peeves, Jelisha, is therapists who don't respond to new client inquiries. I hate it. And I don't want to conflate it with what you're saying right now. I don't want someone to listen to this and then take away like, oh yeah, so it's fine that I don't respond to new clients. No, it's not. It's terrible. It's a terrible problem. It's a terrible business practice.
Yep.
And I feel like, but the workaround, again, if you don't want to have to respond to 10 inquiries a week because you're full, put on your voicemail. I am not currently taking new clients and I will not be responding to voicemails from anyone requesting to be a new client. Put that in an email autoresponder. Like, be clear about where you are, what your boundary and expectation is, and then permission granted to be silent as a church mouse.
Yes. I couldn't agree more with everything you just said.
Okay, thanks. I just had to get that out of my system because
it's a huge pet peeve of mine too, Megan.
Yeah, it drives me nuts, especially in, when I look at the new client inquiry reports for my group practice and we look at like, what did they say when they called? And I just see this list upon list and of people saying like, oh my God, you're the 15th person I've called. And it just, as a therapist, it makes me sad because, wow, that's really emotionally challenging for people. As a business coach, it makes me angry because I'm like, what are all these therapists? They're practicing such shitty business practices. Anyways, as you can tell, I get really upset about this. Okay, silent boundaries. Brilliant. I'm going to be thinking about that for a long time. Let's move on to tip number 5, which is a reminder. I actually feel like we've covered this throughout our talk today, but let's hit it on the head again because it's so important. Tip number 5, remember to allow yourself permission to change and reset your boundaries at any time as you evolve.
Yes.
Say more about that.
I think a lot of therapists, myself included, have struggled with, well, I just raised the fee last year, or, I just set this new cancellation policy. I can't change it again. There's something like when I set something, it has to stay that way, or it's too soon to change it. And life evolves and changes. Your business is going to change.
That's right.
Like it's going to, its needs are, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be because it's growing. It could be because you moved, or maybe you had a kid, or your kid's now in school. Like all these different things can change your availability,
and it doesn't matter what changes. You don't have to justify it to anyone.
Exactly. Yeah. But like just allowing that to be like a part of what this is super important. I think it's important for us to model that for our clients too.
I agree.
Which includes not apologizing or over-explaining it either. But yeah, as of this date, this change is being put into effect. And, you don't have to wait a certain amount of time. I've had some people say, I can only change my fee at the beginning of the year. There are all these rules. And it's like, is that working for you? Like,
right. No, you're literally the boss. Literally. Like, you are the only one who gets to make the rules. It's so hard for therapists to embody that power. A lot of weird stuff comes up around it, right? Guilt, fear, and a lot of things around power and power dynamics that need to be examined and explored. But the agency that you have as a business owner, again, like your business is for you. And if it's not working for you, then it's not working, period. And I love this reminder to give yourself permission to just change the rules. If they're not working for you, just change them. You don't owe anyone an explanation. There's no like magical time limit when you're allowed to like reset things. You can do it whenever you want for whatever reason you want. And if you communicate, let's go back to number 3. If you're assertive and clear and direct and kind, you can do it whenever you need to.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow.
You are the boss.
You are the boss, literally. Yeah, I just say literally because I feel like that we throw around that expression, like you're such a boss or like, yeah, like you're in control. Like, no. In this scenario, you're literally the boss. Like no one has any say over and above you. Okay, so the 5 boundaries you need to avoid burnout in your business. Talk the talk, but more importantly, walk the walk. Protect your time with your life, your work time, your off time, and all of your communication. Be assertive, be direct, and be kind. Master the art of silent boundaries. I think that's like the most fiery point that you brought into this conversation today. For me, at least, I'm really going to be thinking about that. And above all else, remember that you are allowed to change and reset these boundaries at any time and for any reason. Am I getting that right, Jelisha?
You got it. Yep. Hit it on the nail.
Hell yes. This is fantastic advice. Okay. Well, to wrap us up, I have a couple of bonus questions for you. Are you ready?
Ooh, okay.
Okay. So question number 1, these are questions I ask all of our guests on the Rest and Success Code. I would love to know, what are your personal red flags that signal you are getting close to burnout?
Apathy.
Ooh, yeah.
I start to feel apathy towards things that I normally wouldn't. So if I find it's kind of weird. I'm like, when I'm not feeling anxious about this, something is wrong.
Okay, might be identifying another problem that could be explored, but I am right there with you. Yes, when I when I feel less anxious and just feel more like I don't give a shit about anything or anyone.
Yeah, it's the difference between like seeing that email pop up maybe late and saying, "Oh, like that's me moving towards burnout," versus I'll get back to them tomorrow. Like it's a very different aura. And so when I'm feeling this, I need to scale back on something.
Great. Yes, I feel the same way. That is one of my red flags too. And that apathy and that resentment is spiking when for me, apathy, like, apathy quickly turns into anger and I get mad. That's when I know, like, ooh, girl, you need to take a step back and reevaluate something because this is not who you are at your core. Okay, great. So apathy is a red flag for you. Question number 2, Jelisha, what are your favorite ways to rest?
Ice cream and watching true crime.
Yes. Okay. What brand and flavor of ice cream, please?
I love Ben and Jerry's strawberry cheesecake. That's a fave. And then I just like regular vanilla and I put Oreos in it and I just smash them in there.
Oh, you make your own cookies and cream.
Yeah, I do. I don't like to buy the original.
Do you like to do the smashing when you're also feeling that apathy? Like, is that a way that you can just discharge some of your angry energy?
Probably. Yeah. I think it's a coping mechanism, but also like a
cookie smashing. Yeah. That's incredible. Definitely. Eating ice cream, watching true crime. Any great true crime recommendations for our listeners today? AKA me?
I mean, I want the ID channel. Like I could literally just watch
you
that
just turn
forever.
It on.
Yeah.
I don't
like
even know
Wives with Knives, Snapped, Fatal Bells. Like
what? I've literally never heard about any of these things. I'm fascinated right now.
Yeah, Fatal Attraction. Like they're all like episodes of true crime.
Okay, thank you so much. I feel like you are giving so many of us something to do this weekend. It's fantastic. Okay, Jelisha, it's so great to have you here. And I think you are so full of wisdom and so many people are going to be inspired by your tips and advice, but also we can just come full circle by the way you are running your business. I think not a lot of people are doing what you're doing with such clarity and such great boundaries. And there is so much for all of us to learn from you. So I am so honored that I was able to spend this time with you today. And for anyone listening who wants to learn more from you, you can follow Jelisha on Instagram at Saving the Saver. And Jelisha, I, again, just am so grateful for you
thank you for being here. And
thank you for having me, Megan.
So
thank
welcome.
you. It was an honor.
Oh, it was so fun. And thank you all for listening to Jelisha's episode. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you so much for listening. Wow. I hope that you are feeling ready and prepared to set some new business boundaries for yourself that are going to make you feel so much better as a business owner. If you want to learn more from Jelisha, you can download her 4 must-have email templates for therapists in private practice. We're going to include the link to the must-have email templates in the show notes for today's episode. And don't forget, if you enjoyed this episode, I would be so grateful if you would share it with a couple of colleagues who you think would enjoy it too. We would be endlessly grateful for your support in sharing this podcast with more business owners. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you next week. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Deeply Rested. If you enjoyed this conversation, I would love to invite you to join the Deeply Rested weekly newsletter. You can sign up at deeplyrested.com/newsletter. I hope to meet you in my inbox very soon.